I woke up in the ER, tape sticky on my wrist, the heart monitor knocking like a fist. Mom blamed exhaustion, but the chart read, suspected anaphylaxis from food I always ate. Then the door opened. An old man in a charcoal suit, his blue eyes sharp, told me to get ready to leave. The nurse froze. Mom went pale. He dropped a binder on the bed, bearing the hospital's logo and his name, Gideon Parrish, chairman of the endowment. My name is Zoe Cooper. I'm 32 years old, and until yesterday, I was just an operations manager at Kestrel Biologics, living a predictable, meticulously organized life in Riverton. My calendars were color-coded, my finances were balanced to the cent. I was, by all measures, in control. Now, I was a patient at St. Haviland Medical Center, and nothing made sense. The world was rotating in that slow, syrupy way it does after anesthesia, but I hadn't been in surgery. The fluorescent lights overhead hummed, drilling into my skull. It was supposed to be a late birthday party, just 2 days after my actual birthday. Just me, my mother Diana, and my younger sister Tessa. I remembered the slightly too sweet cake, the off-key singing of Happy Birthday in our cramped living room, and then this, the abrasive smell of industrial sanitizer, the rhythmic, insistent beep that was supposedly my heart. I did the automatic self-pat-down, pockets, wrist, neck. My clothes were gone, replaced by a starchy blue gown. "Where's my phone?" My voice was a dry rasp, unfamiliar to my own ears. Diana, sitting too stiffly in the vinyl visitor's chair, waved a dismissive hand. Her smile was tight, the one she used when a creditor called. "Oh, honey, you're fine, just a little scare. The hospital is holding your things. You know, procedure, they lock them up." My wallet, my keys. "All safe," she said, her gaze flickering toward the door. "You just focus on resting. You gave us quite a fright." That was the first crack in the facade. Hospitals hold valuables in a plastic bag. They don't confiscate essentials from a conscious patient. A young doctor, whose name badge read Dr. Aris, breezed in, flipping through a chart. He looked barely out of medical school. "How are we feeling, Zoe?" he asked, his eyes scanning the monitor above my head. "Not me." "Confused," I said. "What happened? Mom mentioned anaphylaxis, but I'm not allergic to anything on that menu. We've eaten it a dozen times." "We had an episode," he said, the ultimate medical non-answer. "A significant hypotensive event. Vitals stabilized quickly in the ambulance. We administered fluids and a mild sedative to help you rest upon admission." "What sedative?" I demanded, pushing the words past the cotton in my mouth. "I want to see the medication list from the transport, and the admitting chart." He adjusted his glasses, a flicker of something unpracticed nervousness crossing his face. "It was a standard supportive cocktail. The attending physician signed off. We'll have a full consult in the morning. Right now, we just want you to relax." He was already backing toward the door, a master of the professional exit. He wouldn't meet my gaze, and he never told me what they had put into my IV. My stomach tightened. This wasn't care. It was containment. I was an operations manager. I analyzed risk. I managed logistics. And the logistics of this situation were screaming that I was being managed. I reached for the bedside tablet, the one hospitals use for ordering bland meals and watching daytime TV. My email was logged in. Strange. I never log into public devices. I'm the person who reads the privacy policy. A new message sat at the top, marked High Priority. Sender St. Haviland Admissions. Subject Medical Care Authorization Update. I tapped it. My finger felt heavy, disconnected. In accordance with the updated authorization received at 2:17, all medical directives and information releases for patient Zoe Cooper will be routed through the designated agent Diana Cooper. 2:17 a.m. I pictured the clock by my bed at home. I would have been deeply unconscious, either at home or in the ambulance. A cold dread, sharper than the IV needle, seeped into my veins. "Mom," I said, my voice dangerously level. cutting through the fog. "What is this?" She stood up, smoothing the front of her blouse. "It's just paperwork, sweetie. You were unresponsive. They needed someone to make decisions. It's procedure." "I made my decision," I said, the fog clearing with the icy rush of adrenaline. "I told you 3 weeks ago, when you first brought it up, that I would not be signing a medical power of attorney. Not over to you, not to anyone. You were stressed from work. You weren't thinking clearly." "I was thinking clearly enough to say no. Diana." I tried to sit up, but a wave of profound dizziness slammed me back into the pillow. I still wasn't thinking clearly. That mild sedative was still working, dulling my edges. Before Diana could formulate her next lie, the door swung open with a pneumatic hiss, ignoring the polite knock first sign. It was the man from the hook, Gideon Parrish. He looked exactly as he had in the brief, hushed glimpses I'd caught of him at my father's funeral 15 years ago. Tall, impeccably dressed in a suit that cost more than my car, and radiating an aura of cold, quiet authority that sucked the humidity out of the room. He was my father's father, my grandfather, a man Diana always referred to with a clipped, venomous tone as that side of the family, usually followed by, "and good riddance." We were told he'd cut us off completely, that he wanted nothing to do with us after my father died. Yet here he was, his ice blue eyes landing on me with an assessor's gaze. "Zoe," he stated. It wasn't a question. "You?" Diana breathed, her face draining of all color, turning a blotchy, papery white. "You have no right to be here. This is a family matter." "On the contrary," Gideon said, his voice a low rumble. "I fund the entirety of Wing A. This is my hospital. I paid for the stone in the lobby and the machines keeping the lights on in this wing. And this," he tapped the binder he'd placed on my bed, "is my granddaughter." "Doctor," Aris reappeared in the doorway, suddenly looking alarmed. "Sir, this patient is not medically cleared for discharge. She had a severe hypotensive episode." Gideon didn't even turn. "She will be cleared within 30 minutes. That is not a request. It is my right as chief patron of this facility. Her health is clearly at risk here." Diana found her voice, a shrill, desperate sound. "She's my daughter. I am her medical proxy. I make the decisions." A proxy obtained under duress and at an hour that suggests profound medical manipulation. A new voice cut in. A woman, sharp in a way that complemented Gideon's stillness, stepped in behind him. She was all angles, dark suit, and carried a briefcase that looked like it weighed more than she did. "Avery Pike, counsel for Mr. Parrish." Avery handed a folded document to the nurse manager, a woman with a face that looked like it had seen everything, who had materialized behind the doctor. "This is a zero-interference patient release, countersigned by the hospital administrator 2 hours ago. It supersedes any temporary proxy assigned in the last 24 hours. You'll find Mr. Parrish's signature, and the hospital's, are binding." The nurse manager scanned the document, her eyes widened, just slightly. She looked at Dr. Aris and gave a single, sharp nod. "It's valid. Prep her for transport. Now." "You can't do this," Diana shrieked, lunging toward the bed, her mask of concern completely gone, replaced by raw panic. Avery Pike blocked her path with an outstretched arm. It was a simple, non-threatening gesture that was as effective as a steel bar. "Ma'am, I suggest you step back. Interfering with a patient transfer is grounds for removal." 2 orderlies appeared with a transport gurney. They were efficient, practiced, moving me from the bed to the gurney in seconds. The motion made the room spin again. But the fog was different now. It was laced with adrenaline. This was an extraction. "Zoe, listen to me." Diana was following us, her voice rising to a pitch I hadn't heard since my father's will was read. "You don't understand the finances. You don't understand what's at stake. He will ruin us." "I'm beginning to," I whispered. We were moving fast, past the nurses' station, toward the private staff elevator Gideon had apparently commandeered. Diana was keeping pace, clutching her oversized purse and her tablet. As she gestured wildly, trying to grab the gurney rail, the tablet screen in her other hand lit up. It was only a glimpse, a split second before the screen timed out, but I saw it. My mind, trained to read data streams, captured the image instantly. It was a banking notification. My bank, Riverton Financial. The alert read, "Emergency account holder change verification processed for account ending 8814. My main checking account, my emergency savings, everything I had built. Gideon held the elevator door. The orderlies pushed me in. He and Avery followed. "They're stealing from me," I said, the words tasting like ash. While I was drugged, they were stealing from me. Gideon looked down at me, his blue eyes unreadable. "Someone waited until you were at your weakest," he murmured. Diana's frantic, distorted face appeared in the gap. "Zoe, don't go with him. He'll poison you against me. You don't understand money." The doors slid shut, silencing her. The elevator descended, smooth and quiet. I was in a hospital gown, no phone, no keys, and my bank account was being hijacked. I was going with a man I hadn't spoken to in over a decade, a man my mother despised. But my mother was the one who signed the papers. My mother was the one whose tablet showed my bank account being drained. I looked at Gideon. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe," he said. "Somewhere you can see clearly. Somewhere you can fight back." I closed my eyes. For the first time since waking up, I felt a flicker of control. I was getting out. I had to save myself before it was too late. The private ambulance ride was silent, a stark contrast to the frantic chaos of my rescue. Gideon Parrish sat opposite me, his hands resting on a polished briefcase, his gaze fixed on the passing cityscape of Riverton. He didn't offer comfort or ask questions. He simply acted, moving me like a strategic piece on a chessboard. We bypassed the main entrance of the towering Parish Institute, a name I'd only seen on donation plaques, and entered through a discreet underground garage. The clinic within was the antithesis of St. Haviland. It was silent, carpeted, and smelled faintly of lemon and old money. My new physician, a woman named Dr. Varma, was waiting. She had Gideon's air of quiet, absolute competence. She didn't placate me. She analyzed me. She drew blood 7 vials. She ran an ECG, a respiratory panel, and an allergy screen. I sat in a room that looked more like a luxury hotel suite than a clinic, wearing a thick cotton robe instead of a starchy gown. Avery Pike, the lawyer, was already present, working silently on a laptop in the corner. An hour later, Dr. Varma returned, holding a tablet. "Well, Zoe, the good news is you are perfectly healthy. The bad news is that your anaphylaxis was a fabrication." She swiped the screen. "Your allergy panel is completely negative. You have 0 reactivity to shellfish, gluten, dairy, or any of the trace ingredients in the meal you described. You were never in anaphylactic shock." "But I collapsed," I insisted, the memory still hazy. My heart, it felt wrong. "It was," Dr. Varma said, her gaze sharp. "Your full toxicology screen, however, shows something interesting. We found trace metabolites of a non-standard benzodiazepine. It's not something we'd ever use in an emergency room setting, and it's certainly not prescribed for anxiety. At the low dosage we're detecting, it wouldn't render you unconscious, not right away. It would induce severe confusion, muscle weakness, and a rapid, fluttering heartbeat, profound suggestibility." She paused, letting the words land. "In short, it's a drug designed to mimic a medical crisis and make the patient highly compliant." A cold, sharp clarity cut through the last of my mental fog. "A mild sedative," I repeated, quoting the weasel-like Dr. Eris. "Hardly," Dr. Varma corrected. "It was a chemical weapon." While Dr. Varma printed my results, Avery finally spoke, her voice crisp. "While you were being assessed, I requested the IT audit logs from St. Haviland. The hospital administrator is cooperative, given Mr. Parrish's patronage. She turned her laptop screen toward me. Your chart was accessed multiple times after you were admitted. The medical care authorization designating Diana Cooper as your proxy was uploaded at 2:17 a.m. I was unconscious, I said. Precisely. It was authorized using the credentials of a nurse Jennifer Riley. Strangely, Nurse Riley clocked out of her shift at 11 p.m. last night. More telling, Avery tapped a key. The IP address that remotely accessed Nurse Riley's account to upload that document was not an internal hospital IP. It was an external, residential IP address. Gideon, who had been standing by the window, finally spoke. Avery, run that IP. Already did. Sir, she replied. It's registered to a residential Wi-Fi network. The account holder, Diana Cooper, your mother's house. I felt the blood drain from my face. They hadn't just seized an opportunity, they had planned it. I need my phone, I said, my voice shaking, not with weakness, but with a sudden, violent rage. Avery handed me a new, shrink-wrapped smartphone. Your old phone, wallet, and keys are likely compromised. This line is secure. I powered it on and immediately called my bank's fraud department. The automated voice was maddening. I finally got a human, a man named Philip, and my voice was tight as I explained I was a victim of identity theft. Ma'am, I'm looking at your account, he said, his tone cautious. We show an emergency account holder change was processed this morning at 2:50 a.m. We also received a completed financial power of attorney form, submitted via your registered email address, authorizing the change. At 2 a.m, you processed it. It was accompanied by a medical authorization note, ma'am, citing incapacitation. Oh, it looks like it was signed by a Dr. Eris from St. Haviland. They were working together, the doctor, my mother, my sister. I didn't authorize this, I said, my voice deadly quiet. I am Zoe Cooper. I am not incapacitated. I am ordering you to lock every account associated with my name, immediately. Freeze everything. No funds in, no funds out. And I want a copy of that POA sent to this new email address. I gave him the address Avery had just written down for me. While I waited for the bank to place the holds, I logged into my personal email on Avery's secured laptop. My stomach turned. There it was, in my sent folder. A message sent at 2:03 a.m. To Riverton Financial Client Services subject. Urgent POA. Activation for Zoe Cooper, attaching financial power of attorney and urgent medical authorization for immediate processing. Please confirm receipt. The attachment was a PDF. My signature was on it, a sloppy digitized forgery of my name. It granted Diana Cooper unlimited, durable power over all my assets. Avery leaned in, her eyes scanning the email's metadata. Originating IP address, and there it is. It's a match. The same IP that logged into the St. Haviland nurse's account sent this email from your account. A memory, sticky and sweet, surfaced. The birthday party. Tessa handing me a glass of dark red juice. Mom's special relaxation juice. Tessa had giggled. She said you're too stressed from work. Diana had insisted. Just drink it, Zoe. It's all natural. It will help you unwind. It had tasted bitter. The sweetness of the mango and cherry failing to mask a chemical tang. I drank it just to make her stop hovering. An hour later, the room began to tilt. They hadn't just found me collapsed. They had caused it. I explained this, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. Gideon finally turned from the window. The look on his face was not sympathy. It was a cold, tired confirmation. She was always like this, he said, his voice low. Your father, my son, was a good man, but he was weak to her. When he died, he left a small, separate insurance policy for her. She liquidated it in 6 months on a disastrous clothing boutique. She begged me for more. When I refused, she told me I was dead to her and that you and Tessa would be taught to hate my name. I honored her wishes. You left us with her, I said, the accusation slipping out, hot and sharp. I left you to be raised by your mother, he corrected, his tone severe. I did not believe I had the right to interfere, unless the circumstances became dire. But I did not leave you unprotected. He nodded to Avery. Avery opened her pristine leather briefcase and retrieved a single thick document. Mr. Parrish established the Parrish Legacy Trust upon your father's death. It is a significant 8-figure endowment. It was structured to remain dormant, managed by his firm, until your 30th birthday. My 30th birthday, the one we were supposedly celebrating. The trust was set to activate and transfer to your sole control last week, Avery continued. However, the activation was contingent upon one very specific clause. She slid the document over. I read the highlighted section. Activation is contingent upon the beneficiary, Zoe Cooper, being legally and financially unencumbered, specifically demonstrating no financial codependency or legal guardianship by her mother, Diana Cooper. I looked up, the pieces clicking into place with sickening speed. They knew, I whispered. They must have known about the trust. They knew of it, Gideon clarified. Diana tried to contest your father's will, claiming the trust should have been hers. She failed. She clearly remembered the date. The trust administrators at J.P. Morgan flagged Diana's first attempt to get you to sign a POA 3 weeks ago, Avery said, taking over. They delayed the activation and alerted Mr. Parrish. This medical emergency was not just a panicked attempt to steal your checking account, Zoe. It was a calculated, fraudulent effort to declare you incapacitated before the trust could be transferred. If she had succeeded, if that POA had held, she could have petitioned the court to manage the trust on your behalf. She wouldn't have just stolen your savings. She would have stolen your entire future. I wanted to be sick. I wanted to call Diana and scream. You will do nothing of the sort, Avery commanded, as if reading my thoughts. They believe you are sedated, confused, and isolated at St. Haviland. We will maintain that illusion. They have already committed wire fraud, forgery, and identity theft. If we confront them now, they will lawyer up and destroy evidence. If we wait, they will grow bolder. They will make more mistakes. How do we get more proof? I asked, my mind racing. Riverton is a 2-party consent state. I can't just record them. A small, thin smile touched Avery's lips. You can't, but they already agreed. Last week, Mr. Parrish sent an email to Diana, Tessa, and you, proposing a family legacy event via video conference, citing a desire to create a recorded oral history. I saw that, I said. Diana ignored it. She didn't, Avery said. Tessa replied from Diana's email 2 days later. The reply said, "We agree to the terms as long as we can discuss financial planning. By agreeing to the event and terms, they gave implicit consent for all subsequent family financial discussions to be recorded for legacy purposes. It's a very small, very tight legal trap. Any call you make to them regarding this matter, from the secure phone I provided, will be legally recorded, transcribed, and admissible." I looked at Gideon, this stranger who was my grandfather, this cold man who had just saved my life. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "I want you to learn to protect what is yours," he said. "I want you to stop being your father's daughter and start being my granddaughter." The sedative was gone. It was replaced by something else, a cold, quiet, calculating rage. "They won't win," I said. Avery snapped her briefcase shut. "Good, because this is no longer a family dispute. Zoe, this is a records-based recovery, and we are going to dismantle them by the paper trail." We waited 6 hours. 6 hours for the lingering effects of the drug to fully clear my system. 6 hours for Avery to get preliminary confirmation that the holds on my accounts were ironclad. Gideon had installed me in a corporate apartment high above Riverton, a sterile, glass-walled box that felt like an observation deck. It was completely anonymous, funded by a parish holding company, and utterly secure. Avery sat across from me at a glass dining table, her laptop open. "They're getting nervous," she said. "Diana has called your old phone 11 times. Tessa 5. They've discovered you're no longer at St. Haviland, they don't know where you are. They're panicking. It's time to call. She had prepped me for this. The secure phone was set to record. My role was simple: be the person they expected me to be. Weak, confused, and pliable. I put my hair in a messy knot. I slouched deep into the chair, letting my eyelids droop. I practiced making my voice sound thick and groggy. I initiated the video call. It connected almost instantly. Their faces, pixelated and too close to the camera, filled the screen. They were in our old living room, the one with the sagging beige couch and the water stain on the ceiling. Zoe. Oh, thank God. Diana's voice was a high-pitched performance of relief. Where are you, that man? That horrible old man. He took you. We've been worried sick. Tessa, beside her, was vibrating with a different energy, not worry, but sharp-edged irritation. Yeah, Zoe, you really freaked us out. What the hell? I'm not sure, I mumbled, letting my gaze drift past the camera as if I couldn't focus. This place, it's quiet. He said it was a private clinic. I'm so tired. Mom. This was the cue. Diana's features softened into her familiar, maternal concern mask. Of course you are, baby. You had a terrible episode. It's all that stress from work. I told you, you've been pushing too hard. The hospital, I said, rubbing my temples. They had me sign things. Or, no, you signed things. Dr. Aris said, you were my proxy. Diana waved her hand, a gesture of airy dismissal. It was just paperwork. Zoe, standard procedure. You were unconscious. Someone had to be in charge. I was just protecting you. Sweetie, making sure you got the best care. You should be thanking her, Tessa snapped, leaning into the frame. Her resentment was a sour, familiar smell. She sat there for hours while you were babbling nonsense. She handled everything. Right, I whispered. Thank you. It's just, I'm so fuzzy. My wallet's gone. I think my rent is due. I looked directly at Tessa, injecting a small note of panic into my voice. Tessa, my rent. It auto-pays on the 1st. But did I have enough? Did you transfer the money from my savings like I asked you to last week? I had never asked her to do that. Tessa's eyes darted to Diana, a flicker of shared conspiracy. Oh, don't worry about that, Tessa said, a little too quickly. I checked. Your balance is fine. The rent payment will clear. You checked, I asked, letting my voice sound helpless. How you don't have my password. Diana shot her a look, but Tessa was already rolling her eyes, drunk on her own cleverness. Please, Zoe, your password is the same for everything. Riverton and your old apartment number. You're so predictable. I just logged in and looked. It's fine. She had just admitted to a federal crime. On a recorded line, Avery, sitting opposite me, remained perfectly still, but her pen moved, underlining a note on her legal pad. Oh, I said, letting a tear slip down my cheek. You have my passwords. Don't be dramatic, Tessa said. I was helping. Someone has to manage your life when you fall apart. I turned my attention back to Diana, focusing on the other thread. And the hospital. Mom, how did you get that Dr. Aris to sign off so fast, that medical authorization? I told you I didn't want one. They usually take days. Legal reviews. Diana preened. The compliment to her efficiency had landed. Well, I have my ways. It turns out the head of admissions, Janine, her son played soccer with Tessa for 2 years. She's a good friend. When I explained the situation, how my daughter was unresponsive and I was the only one who could help, she was happy to, cut through the red tape. She got Dr. Aris to approve it right away. It's just what family does. Zoe, we find a way. She fast-tracked the paperwork, I clarified, my voice weak. Exactly, Diana beamed, proud of her resourcefulness. Janine said it was no problem at all. Avery made another note. Timestamp, aiding and abetting. I think I need to sleep, I whispered, letting my eyes close. I'm so tired. My head hurts. You rest, baby, Diana cooed. Don't you worry about a thing. We'll find you. You tell that awful man that your family is coming to get you. We'll handle everything. Okay, Mom, I whispered. I'll call later. I ended the call. The silence in the glass apartment was absolute. I lifted my head, wiped the fake tear from my cheek, and took a long, steadying sip of water. The fog was gone. I felt a cold, hard clarity I hadn't experienced in years. Well, Avery said, her voice devoid of emotion. That was efficient. We have Tessa admitting to wire fraud, confirming she has your passwords and has used them. We have Diana admitting to conspiring with hospital staff to fraudulently obtain medical proxy. This Janine just implicated herself and Dr. Eris. They thought you were an invalid. They treated you like an idiot. She was already typing, her fingers flying. I am now finalizing the litigation hold notices. One to St. Haviland's legal department, demanding preservation of all communications between Diana Cooper, Tessa Cooper, Dr. Eris, and this Janine, as well as all server logs and security footage. The second goes to Riverton Financial, preserving the fraudulent login data, the email from your account, and all metadata associated with the POA. She hit send. There, the evidence is now locked. They can't delete it. Later that evening, Gideon returned. He didn't knock, just entered with a key code. He found me staring out the window at the city lights. Avery tells me the call was productive, he said. They admitted everything, I said, my voice flat. They were proud of it. He nodded, unsurprised. He stood beside me, looking out at the same view. After your father died, he said, his voice quiet. There was a life insurance policy from his employer, a modest one, $50,000. It was separate from my assets, intended for you and Tessa, for your college. He paused. Diana petitioned the probate court to manage it on your behalf. As you were minors, she won. 6 weeks later, she liquidated the entire amount. I know, I said. The boutique, Diana's designs, she told us it was her dream. It was her dream, Gideon agreed. It lasted 8 months. She sold off the last of the inventory at a 30% loss. By the time you were 10, the money was gone, all of it. She never apologized. She told you, I believe, that the market was unforgiving. I remembered the pink shopping bags, the smell of cheap perfume, and then the sudden, silent apartment full of creditors' notices. This is the same, I said, the realization settling in my stomach like cold cement. This is just the boutique, but with my life. It is the pattern, he said. She waits for a moment of weakness, grief, stress, and now, a chemically induced illness, and then she borrows what is yours, convinced she is entitled to it, convinced she is protecting you from the burden of your own life. I finally understood. My whole life, I had been managing Diana and Tessa, paying for Tessa's car insurance when she forgot, co-signing Diana's lease when her credit was shot. I thought I was being a good daughter, a good sister. I wasn't. I was just the next Mark. I was the new solvent insurance policy. He placed a thin leather-bound book and a pen on the table. Write it all down, he commanded. Not what you feel, what you know, every detail, every time, every date. From the moment Tessa handed you that relaxation juice, lock the timeline. Your memory is the one asset they can't forge, but it's also the one that fades. Do not let it fade. He left me alone. I sat at the glass table, the city lights blurring beneath me. I opened the book. I started to write. 8:13 p.m. Tessa hands me the red juice, insists I drink it. 8:45 p.m. Mom presents the cake. I feel dizzy, heart fluttering. 9:05 p.m. I tell Mom I need to lie down. She says I look pale. I wrote for hours. I detailed every lie, every small financial favor, every time I had signed something just to make them happy, to keep the peace. The pattern wasn't just a pattern, it was a blueprint. I looked out the window again. The city was dark, but I could see my own reflection in the glass. I looked tired. I looked angry, but I didn't look weak. This time, I whispered to my reflection, they don't get to take it. This time, I take it back. The next morning, Avery arrived at the apartment not with sympathy, but with a strategy. She was an architect of legal warfare, and I was her new proving ground. They've failed to access your primary accounts, she stated, setting her briefcase on the glass table. The freeze is holding. Philip at the bank has flagged your file. They've tried to log in 17 times since your video call. So they're locked out, I said, feeling a small, petty victory. For now, but they're cornered, which makes them sloppy, Avery replied. Your mother and sister are driven by immediate, emotional greed. The man who forged that signature is not, he's a professional. He'll want to get paid, and he'll want to do it before the legal net closes. She opened her laptop. So, we give them something to take. She walked me through the new account. She had established it overnight. A high-yield savings account with a neutral, impressive-sounding name, the Arcadia Reserve. It was legally and solely in my name, but she had seeded it with $20,000 of Gideon's money. This is a honeypot, she explained, her fingers navigating firewall settings I'd only read about. It's an emergency fund that you forgot about. It's not connected to your main Riverton financial accounts. We are going to attach this account to a new, clean email address. The only security alert on this account is a digital tripwire. Any attempt to add a new payee, change an address, or initiate a transfer to any account not on a pre-approved whitelist which is currently empty will ping my firm's private server. It will also capture the originating IP, the device signature, and the session data. My job was to dangle the bait. I sat at my own laptop, my hands feeling steady. I drafted the email, my new persona of the confused, weakened victim settling over me like a heavy coat. I sent it to Diana, Tessa, and a new address Avery had flagged as belonging to my mother, DH Financial Planning. Mom, Tessa. I'm still so tired. Gideon won't let me use my regular bank. He says it's compromised. I don't understand any of this. I found an old account I set up. I think it's called Arcadia Reserve. I have the login, but I don't have the energy to manage it. I need money for, I don't know, medication, food. I'm scared. I'm making you, Mom, the temporary manager. I just want this to be over. The login is attached. Please, just handle it. Just take care of me. I attached a simple text file with the new login credentials. It felt like chumming the water. And now, Avery said, closing her laptop, we wait for the sharks. We didn't wait long. It took less than 24 hours. A digital chime, sharp and clear, echoed from Avery's laptop. She opened it, her expression unreadable. She turned the screen to me. It was an alert from the Arcadia Reserve. A transfer had been initiated. Amount $9,800. Just under the $10,000 federal reporting threshold, Avery noted, her voice tinged with clinical appreciation. He's not stupid. He's trying to keep it off the CTR logs. The recipient was a shell corporation, Heart Advisory Services, LLC. The authorization was a digitized image of my signature, the same sloppy forgery from the power of attorney. And the IP address? Avery typed, running the trace. The screen populated. Not from your mother's house. This one is registered to a business address in the adjacent county, specifically to a Malcolm Hart. Malcolm, I breathed. My mother's cousin. I hadn't seen him in years, not since he'd lost his brokerage license for misallocating client funds. He was the family's financial black sheep, a man Diana always spoke of with a mix of pity and quiet admiration for his hustle. He was their finance guy. They're not just trying to steal it, I said. They're trying to launder it through Malcolm. He's the professional, Avery confirmed. He drafted the POA. He's directing the transfers. Your mother and sister are just the emotional cover. This is a conspiracy. Avery's phone buzzed. She looked at it, then at me. They just received the bounce back. The transfer was trapped by our firewall and automatically rejected. They know the funds are there, but they can't move them electronically. They'll be furious. They will panic, and they will revert to what they know. They'll want me to sign something in person, I concluded, to legitimize the transfer. Exactly, and you will agree, Avery said. This call was harder. Diana was the one who called, her voice tight with frustration. Zoe, this new account, this Arcadia thing, it's not working. I tried to pay for that specialist I found for you, and it won't let me. It's all locked up. A specialist, I asked, playing my part. Mom, I don't. This is what I'm talking about, she snapped. You don't understand. I'm trying to move $9,800, and it's just sitting there. We need to get this done. I'm sending Malcolm over. He knows how to handle these things. You just need to sign a simple release form in front of a notary. He'll bring one. Malcolm? I feigned confusion. Mom, I'm scared. I don't want to meet anyone. It's fine, she insisted. He'll meet you anywhere. It has to be today. Zoe, the specialist needs the deposit. Just tell us where you are. I can ask Gideon if I can use the meeting room in his building, I offered, as Avery had instructed. It's the only place he'll let me go. Tomorrow, at 10. 10 o'clock, she confirmed, mollified. Good. Finally. You're finally being smart about this. Zoe, you just let Malcolm handle the paperwork. You just sign. I hung up. The stage was set. The notary would be one of Avery's paralegals. The meeting room was a flagship conference room in Gideon's building, equipped with high-resolution audio and video recording from 3 different angles. We were building the case, brick by brick, but as Avery was preparing the trap, the evidence we had already gathered began to bear fruit. A new email pinged Avery's inbox. Well, she said, a dry smile touching her lips, Tessa Cooper is not a technical genius. It was a data dump from Tessa's cloud storage. When Avery had sent the litigation hold to the bank, she had also cross-referenced Tessa's known email addresses. She found a personal account linked to a cloud service with auto backup enabled, a service Tessa had clearly forgotten about. The contents were a disorganized mess of selfies, job applications, and a chat log. A chat log between her and Diana, dating back 6 weeks. Avery projected it onto the wall-mounted screen. Diana. He's not responding. That old bastard is just sitting on it. Tessa. So what now? The trust activates in like 5 weeks. We have to do something. Diana. I'll try to get her to sign the POA again. I'll tell her it's for emergencies. Tessa, she's not that dumb mom. She said no last time. Diana. She will be. She's stressed. We just need to push her. Maybe we need a bigger emergency. My breath caught. A bigger emergency. We scrolled down. The chats from the night of my party were chillingly clear. Diana, 8:52 p.m. She drank it all. Tessa, 8:53 p.m. See easy. How long, Diana? 9:15 p.m. She's dizzy, complaining about her heart. This is it. Diana, 9:40 p.m. On the way to Haviland. You know what to do? Tessa. 9:42 p.m. Already in the system. Janine is covering the floor. I'll use Riley's login from my phone when she's on break. Dr. Aris is the resident. He's new. He won't question Janine. Diana. Good girl. We'll finally be safe. I sat down, the strength gone from my legs. This wasn't a crime of opportunity. It wasn't my mother panicking. It was a cold, calculated, premeditated attack. They had drugged me, planned the hospital, and had the staff and the doctor lined up before I even felt the first symptom. As I was absorbing this, another email arrived. This one was from the legal department at St. Haviland Medical Center. It was their official, compelled response to Avery's litigation hold. Avery opened the attached, encrypted files. And here is our keystone, she said. She didn't need to project this one. She just read from the report. Hospital IT confirms unauthorized access to the nursing credentials of one Jennifer Riley at 2:17 a.m. The access was not from the IP address at Diana Cooper's residence. As we first suspected, that IP was only used for the email to the bank. She looked up at me, her eyes sharp. The chart access, the upload of the fraudulent medical proxy, All of it. It was routed through the hospital's internal mobile app. It was logged by a unique device ID, a specific iPhone, an iPhone registered to Tessa Cooper. Her temp job, I whispered, the final, sickening piece sliding into place. She worked there for 2 months last year, in billing. She must have kept the internal employee app on her phone. She knew the systems, Avery concluded. She knew the staff. She knew the doctor on duty, and she knew which nurse's login would be easiest to steal. This is a multi-jurisdictional felony. Zoe, this goes far beyond family greed. Avery Pike picked up her phone. I am filing for an emergency temporary restraining order against Diana Cooper, Tessa Cooper, and Malcolm Hart, barring them from any and all contact or transactions related to your assets, pending a full hearing. She was no longer just my lawyer, she was a prosecutor, and I was the star witness in the case against my own family. The temporary restraining order, or TRO, was a silent bomb. Avery filed it electronically, and a court server automatically dispatched the notice to Diana, Tessa, and Malcolm. It was a legal declaration of war, a line drawn in concrete. We knew it would sever the last thread of plausible deniability. We didn't anticipate how fast, or how publicly, Diana would retaliate. Less than an hour after the TRO notification hit her inbox, my phone, the new, secure one, buzzed with alerts. My old friends from college, people from work, even my dentist's office manager, were all sending me the same screenshot. Diana had gone public. She had taken her performance to the one stage she truly understood: Facebook. It was a masterpiece of narcissistic victimhood. She had posted a photo of me, taken while I was unconscious in the St. Haviland ER. I was pale, mouth slack, an IV tube taped to my hand. It was a violation so profound it stole my breath. But she had been clever. She had cropped the photo tightly, cutting out any part of the St. Haviland Medical Center logo, any identifying background. It was just me, looking helpless. The text she wrote above it was a novella of maternal grief. This is the hardest post I've ever had to write. It began. I'm asking for your prayers. As many of you know, my beautiful daughter Zoe has been under immense stress. It finally became too much, and she had a terrible medical crisis. We were so scared, but Tessa and I got her to the hospital. But as she was recovering, a man who abandoned our family 15 years ago showed up and took her. He has her isolated somewhere, has turned her against her own family, and we don't know where she is. She wasn't done. My heart is broken. I've been a single mother my whole life, giving everything for my girls. Now, just when she needs me most, I'm being legally blocked from helping her. He has poisoned her against me. All I want is to know my baby is safe. Please, if anyone hears from her, tell her to call her mother. Tell her I love her. We just want her to come home. The comments were a cascade of sympathy. Diana, this is horrifying, praying for you. That poor girl, what kind of monster would do that? Sending love and light. Stay strong. Mama Bear. I watched my reputation, my professional life, and my personal integrity being immolated in real time by a cropped photo and a lie. My first instinct was to comment, to write, "It's a lie. She drugged me," in all caps. "No," Gideon said, his voice calm from the doorway. He had seen the post. "You will not engage her in her arena. You will not play her game. She uses emotion as a smokescreen. You will use facts as a weapon. You will not reply. You will escalate." Avery was already in agreement, her focus absolute. She has just made a critical error. She has created a public record of her narrative, a narrative that is demonstrably false. She thinks she's controlling the story, but she's just published her own affidavit of lies. We will not respond on her public wall. We will take this to a different public. She tapped her laptop. Your extended family, your aunts, uncles, cousins, the ones who loaned her money after the boutique failed, the ones who still see her as the tragic widow. I spent the next hour in a cold, precise rage. I didn't write a narrative. I built a report. I created a new, private group email. I added my Aunt Carol, my Uncle Mark, Diana's 2 sisters, and all 8 of my adult cousins, the respectable side of the family. The subject line was simple: an update on my health and a request for family clarity. I kept the tone calm, factual, and deeply concerned. I was Zoe, the responsible one, the operations manager. Dear family, I wrote, I am safe. I am writing to you because there is a significant amount of misinformation circulating, and it has become a legal matter that threatens my safety and my financial independence. I didn't accuse, I just presented. As you may have heard, I had a medical emergency 2 nights ago. Here is the timeline of events as confirmed by hospital and bank records. First, I attached the screenshot of Diana's first attempt to have me sign a POA, the one from 3 weeks ago, which I had politely declined over email. Second, I attached a redacted screenshot of the email log, showing a new POA being emailed from my account to my bank at 2:03 in the morning, while I was documented as being unresponsive in the ER. Third, I attached a screenshot of the fraudulent transfer request for $9,800 made to Heart Advisory Services, LLC, a company I had never heard of. I included a note: this transfer, initiated by those who had fraudulently gained access to my accounts, was attempted while I was still heavily sedated. Fourth, I attached the hospital's own report summary, confirming my chart was accessed by an unauthorized user, Tessa, using a stolen nurse's login from her personal phone. I ended it cleanly. Gideon Parrish, my paternal grandfather, did not take me. He executed a legal patient release after discovering these fraudulent activities were taking place while I was under a doctor's care. He moved me to a secure location where I could recover and begin to protect myself. I finished with a simple, devastating closing. I love my mother and my sister, but I cannot allow this to continue. I am not at war, but I am drawing a boundary. This is no longer a family disagreement. It is identity theft. I ask that you respect my privacy as I continue to deal with the legal and medical ramifications. I hit send. Then, I did the hardest part. I unplugged. I turned off the secure phone, logged out of the email, and went with Gideon to the Institute's library. I read a book on corporate compliance for 3 hours. I did not check for replies. When I finally logged back in, my inbox was a war zone. The family email chain had exploded. Aunt Carol, Diana's older sister, was first. Diana, what is this? This is Zoe's signature, but it's dated the night she was in the hospital. Did you sign this for her? Uncle Mark, who is Malcolm Hart? Isn't that your cousin? The one who had those legal troubles in Florida? Why is Zoe's money being sent to him? A different cousin. Wait, I just saw your Facebook post. You posted a picture of Zoe in the hospital. But the picture you posted, it's cropped. Why did you crop the hospital logo out? Diana, it looks like you're hiding where she was. Aunt Carol again, her tone shifting from confused to cold. Tessa worked at St. Haviland. This report says someone used a stolen login from her phone. Diana, you need to answer these questions. This looks horrifying. The narrative had shattered. The worried mother was suddenly the desperate thief. An hour later, Diana's Facebook post vanished. It was scrubbed clean, as if it had never existed. But the damage was done. My phone, the one I had finally turned back on, buzzed. It was a private message from Tessa. The mask was off. The whining, resentful sister was gone, replaced by a cornered animal. Tessa. You bitch. You think you're so smart. Running to the family with your evidence. You have no idea what you've done. You're trying to ruin Mom. You're trying to ruin me. We were protecting you. That money was for the family. You're going to get sued for defamation. I'm going to tell everyone you're unstable. I'm going to sue you for libel. I took a screenshot. I forwarded it to Avery. Gideon read the message over my shoulder, a thin, satisfied smile on his lips. Good. Let them threaten. Let them flail. They are pushing themselves deeper into the hole. They have lost the family. Now, they will lose everything else. The next day, two things happened. First, Avery received a call from the General Counsel of St. Haviland Medical Center. "They are in full panic mode," she reported to me, her voice crisp. "Our litigation hold and the family blowback have them terrified of a lawsuit. They have opened a full internal integrity investigation into Dr. Aris, Nurse Jeanine, and the entire admissions department. They've already suspended Tessa's friend Jeanine. They're about to throw Diana and Tessa under the bus to save the hospital's reputation." The second thing was a message on my professional networking profile. It was from a recruiter at Northbridge Health Systems, one of Kestrel Biologics' largest and most respected competitors. "Ms. Cooper," it read, "I've been following your career and your reputation for operational integrity at Kestrel. We have an opening for a senior manager in our compliance division that I think would be a perfect fit. Would you be open to a confidential discussion?" I stared at the message. My reputation for integrity was spreading, but not in the way I'd expected. The rumor mill in the pharma world was small. A story about a high-level operations manager being medically hijacked, only to be extracted by the legendary Gideon Parrish, was a story that traveled fast. I wasn't being seen as a victim. I was being seen as a valuable asset, someone who understood risk, and someone who had the backing of a titan. I wrote back, "Thank you. I would be very interested in discussing this." That evening, my old phone, the one Avery had kept in a signal-blocking bag, buzzed with a new voicemail. It wasn't from Diana or Tessa. It was from my best friend, Sarah. "Zoe, I saw Diana's crazy post before she deleted it. I just read the email from your aunt, who forwarded it to my mom. This is insane. I don't even have words. I just want you to know, I'm here. We're here. A bunch of us from college are putting together a support fund. Just in case you need legal fees or anything, just call me. We've got your back, 100%. I listened to the message twice, and for the first time since I woke up in the ER, I felt the cold, hard knot in my chest loosen. Just a fraction. Diana and Tessa had isolated me my entire life, making me believe they were my only support. They were wrong. I had a foundation. I had a reputation. And now, I had an army. The consultation was scheduled for 10 a.m. The room Gideon had chosen was on the 42nd floor of the Parrish Institute Tower. It was a boardroom designed to intimidate, all dark mahogany, black leather, and a wall of glass overlooking the whole of Riverton. It was also, as Avery had assured me, equipped with broadcast-quality audio and video recording. I sat at the head of the table. Avery was to my right, her laptop open. A stern-looking woman in a severe suit sat by the wall, ostensibly my assistant, but in reality, she was the paralegal who was also a licensed notary public. Gideon's instructions had been explicit. "You are the CEO of your own life. Zoe, you are here to listen to a proposal. You will not speak. You will not defend yourself. You will not engage. You will observe. Avery will handle the discussion. Your power is in your silence." I felt a cold, humming energy in my veins. The last of the victim had bled out. I was an operations manager, and this was a vendor review. At 10:02, the door opened. Diana entered first, her face a mask of anxious maternal care. She rushed to me, hands fluttering. "Zoe, baby, I'm so glad we can finally sort this out. I've been so worried." I didn't flinch or pull away. I just looked at her, my expression neutral. My silence unnerved her. She stopped, her hands dropping. Behind her, Malcolm Hart entered. He was exactly as I remembered, slick, slightly too loud cologne, a suit that looked expensive but fit badly across the shoulders. He carried a thin alligator skin briefcase. "Zoe," he said, extending a hand, his smile wide and false. "Good to see you on your feet. You gave us all a scare." I didn't take his hand, I just nodded. Avery spoke, her voice cutting through the forced pleasantries. "Thank you for coming. I am Avery Pike, counsel for Ms. Cooper. This is my associate, who will notarize any required documents. Please, sit." Malcolm and Diana took seats opposite us. The table felt a mile wide. As my mother explained, I said, my voice steady and low, I'm just here to sign the release for the specialist. Exactly, Malcolm said, clicking open his briefcase. Just a simple transfer authorization for the Arcadia Reserve account. Diana mentioned you were having trouble, so we prepared the paperwork to make it easy on you. Just a quick signature. He pulled out a slim silver USB drive. It's all on here. We just need to print it. You sign, and our notary, he nodded at the paralegal, can stamp it. He slid the USB drive across the polished table. Avery put her hand on it. Thank you. As per Ms. Cooper's new security protocols, all digital media must be scanned and verified on our closed system before we interface with a printer. Malcolm laughed, a tight, nervous sound. It's just a PDF, counselor, a little paranoid. Are we? After recent events, profoundly, Avery said, her voice flat. She inserted the USB into a secure laptop terminal. I'm just verifying the file hash to ensure it hasn't been corrupted. Diana sighed, drumming her fingers. Honestly, all this drama, Zoe, it's for the doctor, the one I told you about. He needs the $9,800. The file is clean, Avery announced, her eyes on her screen. But it is not a transfer authorization for $9,800. Diana froze. Malcolm's smile twitched. This file, Avery continued, is a comprehensive, durable power of attorney. It grants Ms. Diana Cooper unlimited, irrevocable authority over all of Ms. Zoe Cooper's assets, properties, and medical decisions. What? I faked a gasp, looking at my mother. Mom, you said it was just for the specialist. It's just being thorough. Sweetie? Diana stammered, her face flushing red. It's a family matter. We just wanted to have everything in one place, to make it convenient for you while you're recovering. We can just print the one page. I'm more interested in the metadata, Avery interrupted, turning her screen so they could both see. This file was last modified this morning at 8:30 a.m., but the file creation date, she highlighted the line, was 3 weeks ago, the day after Ms. Cooper first declined your request for a POA. Malcolm had stopped smiling. Avery continued. And the asset schedule. This is impressive. You've listed her Kestrel Biologics 401k, her brokerage account, the title to her car, and, here it is. All rights and claims, present and future, associated with the Parish Legacy Trust. Silence. Diana looked at Malcolm. Malcolm stared at Avery. That, Avery said, is not convenience. That is premeditated, consolidated theft. Before Diana could formulate a response, the main conference room door opened. Gideon Parrish walked in, not with the fire of an angry relative, but with the cold boredom of a CEO entering a meeting that was running long. He ignored Diana completely. His eyes landed on Malcolm. It has been a very long time, Marcus, Gideon said, his voice quiet. Malcolm's heart went rigid. His face turned the color of ash. I don't know what you're talking about, he whispered. My name is Malcolm. Your name is Marcus Hale, Gideon stated, walking slowly toward the table. Born in Tampa, Florida, you were convicted on 2 counts of wire fraud in 2011 and 1 count of securities fraud related to unregistered annuities in 2012. You served 18 months at a low-security federal correctional institution. You are currently on parole, a condition of which is that you do not, under any circumstances, engage in providing financial advice. Diana looked back and forth between them. Marcus, what is he talking about, Malcolm? Tell him he's wrong. Marcus Hale was sweating, his eyes darting to the door. The cameras, visible and hidden, were capturing every micro-expression of his panic. Avery took over, her voice sharp, a prosecutor beginning a cross-examination. Mr. Hale, since you appear to have provided this document, who drafted it? It's a standard template, Marcus stammered, wiping his upper lip. Diana, Mrs. Cooper provided the asset list. Liar, Diana shrieked, jumping to her feet. You told me this was the normal way it was done. You said you knew how to handle these family funds, that it was all legal. So you did provide the asset list, Diana, Avery asked, her tone conversational, including the parish trust. Zoe and I talked about it, Diana lied, clutching at straws. When, Avery pressed, my client has been in secure isolation. Did you discuss it before you had her drugged? This is harassment, Diana yelled. Throughout this, I did exactly as Gideon had instructed. I said nothing. I just watched. I watched the man who had forged my signature crumble under his real name. I watched my mother, cornered, revert to her default settings lies, bluster, and righteous indignation. I was learning. I was seeing the machinery beneath the performance. This meeting is over, Avery said, closing her laptop. She had saved a copy of the USB's contents. Mr. Hale, I will be forwarding your name, your alias, and a copy of this fraudulent document which violates your parole to the U.S. Attorney's Office for this district and to your parole officer in Florida. I suggest you retain counsel. She then looked at Diana. As for you, Ms. Cooper, the TRO stands. This attempted forgery has been documented. If you or your daughter attempt to contact, much less access, any part of Ms. Cooper's life again, we will file for criminal charges. The evidence is comprehensive. Marcus Hale grabbed his briefcase and practically ran from the room. He didn't say goodbye. As he bolted, he hissed at Diana, loud enough for the microphones to catch it. You said this was a sure thing. You said she was weak. You never said we'd be up against the whole damn parish foundation. He was gone. Diana stood alone, her bravado evaporating, leaving behind the small, desperate woman I had always known. She looked at me, her eyes filling with tears, the real ones, this time. Zoe, please, you don't understand. The money. We're in trouble. Tessa, that man, he twisted everything. I just looked at her. I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel pity. I felt empty. I gave her nothing. She wilted. With a choked sob, she turned and walked out, defeated. The door clicked shut. The silence in the room was absolute. It was just me and Gideon. He said it. I finally spoke, my voice hoarse. The parish foundation. They knew about the trust. They knew the amount. They weren't just stealing my savings. They were stealing the 8 figures. Yes, Gideon said. He hadn't moved. A sudden sharp anger, different from before, surged in my chest. It was directed at him. And you, I said, turning to face him. You knew about the clause. You knew what they were planning. You've been watching me. You let this happen. Why? Why not just tell me? Why not just give me the money and protect me? Gideon regarded me, his expression unreadable. I could have, he said. I could have transferred the trust, buried your mother in lawsuits, and installed you in a safe corner office. You would have been protected, and you would have remained your father's daughter. He paused, the words landing with deliberate weight. Weak, trusting, a victim waiting for the next predator, always needing to be rescued. He gestured to the empty, chaotic chairs where Diana and Marcus had sat. I needed to see whether you could be my granddaughter, he said, his voice dropping not with malice, but with the weight of a final verdict. I needed to know if, when faced with the truth of your family, you would falter, or if you would learn to sit steady, keep quiet, and let them bring about their own ruin. It wasn't a rescue. It wasn't about the money. It was a test, a brutal, agonizing, and necessary test of character. I had spent my entire adult life being responsible, which, I now realized, was just another word for enabling. I had been the family shock absorber, the reliable bank, the easy mark. I stood up and straightened my jacket. I looked at the table, at the recording devices, at the view of the city, my city. They won't get another chance, I said. This isn't just about protection anymore. This is about control. Gideon allowed himself the smallest hint of a smile. Good, because your defense is complete. Now, your offense begins. The meeting in the mahogany boardroom had been a pivot point. The test was over. My defense was built. Now, it was time to build my life. I walked into my office at Kestrel Biologics the following Monday. The fluorescent lights and beige cubicles felt foreign, small. My boss, Gary, looked up in surprise. "Zoe, we're glad you're okay. We didn't expect you back so soon." "I'm not back," I said, my voice clear and steady. "Not in the same way." I sat. "Gary, I want a transfer, effective immediately." He blinked, flustered. A transfer to where the Northbridge offer. The gossip mill had been working overtime. "No," I said. "I want to move to compliance. Specifically, I want to work in insurance and provider billing." Gary looked utterly baffled. Operations was a fast track. Compliance was a paper-filled backwater. "Billing, Zoe, that's a lateral move. At best, it's a data entry department." "It's a risk analysis department," I corrected him. In light of my recent personal experience with fraudulent medical billing and compromised hospital staff, I've developed a keen interest in Kestrel's own vulnerabilities. I want to see our provider invoices. I want to audit our partners. I want to make sure our house is clean. He saw the steel in my eyes. He saw the name Parrish hovering invisibly over my head. I wasn't asking. I was a high-performing manager with a sudden, unassailable passion for auditing. He couldn't say no. "Right," he said, nodding. "Proactive, smart. I'll authorize it." By noon, I was sitting in a different cubicle, in a different building, with access to the raw data feed of Kestrel's multi-million-dollar partner payment system. The department head, a quiet woman named Maria, was thrilled to have someone with an operations background. She gave me a login and a simple directive. "Just look for anomalies. We're too understaffed to do deep dives." I didn't need a deep dive. I just needed a thread. I worked for 72 hours straight, fueled by coffee and a cold, clarifying rage. I wasn't just managing logistics anymore. I was hunting. I pulled the contracts for our top 50 external service providers, everything from physical therapy networks to third-party diagnostic labs. On the third day, I found it. It was a diagnostic partner. Mid-Valley Imaging, a company that processed thousands of MRIs and CT scans for our clinical trials. Their invoices were perfect, too perfect. The billing codes were standard. But I cross-referenced the patient invoices with the provider invoices, and a pattern emerged. They were double billing. They were billing Kestrel for the full standard rate of a procedure, as per our contract, but they were also billing the patient's private insurance for the copay and deductible portion of the same procedure. This was explicitly forbidden in our provider agreement. They were getting paid twice for every single patient, a fraud that was netting them, by my quick calculation, nearly $800,000 a year. It was sloppy, but the next part was elegant. Where was that $800,000 going? I followed the money. Mid-Valley Imaging had a consulting line item in their budget, a huge one, paid out quarterly to a different entity, a small, nondescript firm with a generic name. Heart Advisory Services, LLC. My blood went cold. I ran the LLC, the registered agent, Marcus Hale, my cousin Malcolm. This wasn't just a side hustle. This wasn't just a kickback. This was his clean money. This was the steady, legitimate-looking income that financed his entire fraudulent operation. He was using a major pharmaceutical company, my own employer, as his personal piggy bank. This was why he was so confident. This was why my mother trusted him. He had a clean revenue stream. I didn't go to Gary. I didn't go to Maria. I spent the next 24 hours writing. I compiled an 18-page report. It was the best work of my life. It was not an emotional plea. It was a sterile, factual indictment. I detailed the billing code discrepancies. I included screenshots of the parallel invoices. I mapped the flow of funds from Kestrel to Mid-Valley, to the shell corporation registered to a convicted felon. I calculated the precise financial damage to Kestrel, the legal exposure for violating patient insurance agreements, and the reputational risk of being publicly associated with Marcus Hale. My recommendation was a single sentence: immediate and total termination of the Mid-Valley imaging contract, effective as of this quarter, and referral of all findings to the legal department for potential clawback and criminal investigation. I sent it to Gary. He was in my new cubicle in 5 minutes, his face pale. "Zoe, this is explosive. Are you sure?" "The data is on page 12, I said. "The bank transfers are on page 15. "But Mid-Valley," he stammered. "We've had a relationship with them for 10 years. Their CEO, Don, he plays golf with our board." "Then I suggest you get him off the 9th hole before this goes public," I said, my voice flat. Gary hesitated, wringing his hands, the classic long-term relationship defense, the good old boys network. "Gary," I said, my voice softening just a fraction, "I understand your position. This is difficult." I hit send on a new email. This one just to him. "This is a 1-page summary. It's not my report. It's a draft memo from me to the board, outlining the legal risks. It cites the specific clauses in our contract that Mid-Valley has violated. It also cites the federal statutes they've broken, and it clearly outlines Kestrel's own liability for failing to act once this information was provided to management." I looked him in the eye. "You have my 18-page report, which is internal and confidential, or the board can have this 1-page memo, which is a legal time bomb. Your call." Gary looked at the email on his phone. He looked at me. He saw the ghost of Gideon Parrish standing behind me. I'll handle it," he mumbled, and walked away. 3 hours later, a company-wide memo announced that Kestrel Biologics was restructuring its provider relationships and would be parting ways with Mid-Valley Imaging, effective immediately. Marcus Hale had just lost his primary source of income. Tessa, predictably, reacted with all the subtlety of a grenade. That night, her Instagram story was a series of black screens with white text. "Some people forget where they came from. You think you're safe up in your new tower? You're not family. You're a snake. Someone is going to regret messing with my family. You'll get what's coming to you." I screenshot it. I sent it to Avery. It was a clear violation of the TRO's no-contact clause. Another brick in the wall. That Friday, Gideon told me to take the afternoon off. His driver picked me up. But we didn't go to the apartment. We drove to the oldest part of Riverton, to a quiet, tree-lined street, and stopped in front of a building of old, dignified granite. The plaque simply read, "Parish House." This was not the institute. This was the foundation. "This," he said, "is the engine. The institute is where we spend the money. This is where we decide why." He walked me through quiet, carpeted halls. He introduced me to a small, focused team of people, a woman named Elaine, who managed scholarships for the children of first responders, a man named David, who ran the medical aid division, funding experimental treatments for people who had exhausted all other options. This was not a bank. It was a mission control. These people weren't just managing assets. They were deploying resources. "You have seen what it is to tear down," Gideon said to me as we stood in a library overlooking a quiet garden. "That is the easy part. It is clean. The hard part is deciding what to build." I thought about the last few weeks, the ER, the terror, the cold, sterile efficiency of the nurses, the panic of Dr. Aris, the betrayal of Tessa's friend Janine. But I also remembered the one nurse, the one who had checked my IV tape, her face tired but kind, before Gideon had arrived. "I have an idea," I said. I pitched it to him. Not a massive endowment, but a small, targeted fund. A fund to pay the full tuition for nursing candidates, specifically those from low-income backgrounds who showed high ethical aptitude. We would pay for their education, and in return, they would commit to 2 years of service at a public hospital, like St. Haviland. "It's about integrity," I said. "We can't just punish the bad actors, like Dr. Aris or Janine. We have to fund the good ones. We have to build an army of people who can't be bought, who can't be pressured." I told him I wanted to call it the Blue Lantern Fund. "After the light," I explained, my voice quiet. "When I was in that bed, drugged and terrified, The only thing that felt real was the blue call light on the wall. It was the only power I had. Gideon stared at me for a long time. I couldn't read his expression. Finally, he nodded. "Elaine will draw up the charter," he said. "It will be capitalized with an initial $5 million. I was stunned. Thank you. "I am not giving it to you, Zoe," he said, his voice firm. "I am making you the founding co-patron. You will help Elaine and David select the candidates. You will review the metrics. You will be responsible for its success. This is your first project." He was giving me work. He was giving me responsibility. He was giving me a purpose that had nothing to do with Kestrel, and absolutely nothing to do with Diana or Tessa. I stood in that quiet library, the smell of old books and lemon polish in the air, and I realized my future was no longer about them. It was no longer about what they had tried to take. It was about what I was about to build. My world was getting bigger, while theirs was collapsing. When I got back to the apartment, a new email from Avery was waiting. It was a single, thick PDF attachment. "Zoe," the email read, "the package is complete. I have the bank records, the hospital investigation, the chat logs, Tessa's Turo violation, and Marcus Hale's parole officer's report. This is the final civil complaint. It alleges conspiracy, fraud, unjust enrichment, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. It is devastating." She had done as I asked. She had built the weapon. "We are ready," her email concluded. "We can file this tomorrow morning and end it. Or, as per your grandfather's suggestion, we can wait for one final, public move. The choice is yours." I looked at the file. I thought about the Blue Lantern Fund. I thought about my new future. I didn't want to just win. I wanted to close the door. Forever. And for that, I needed one last, public, undeniable act. The walls were closing in, and I didn't have to do anything but watch. The systems Avery and I had put in motion were now running on their own, grinding away at the foundations of my mother's life. The first crack was the hospital. Avery received a copy of the certified letter St. Haviland's legal department sent to Diana. It was not a request. It was a formal notification of an internal investigation into potential patient data breach and medical proxy fraud. It named Tessa specifically, summoning her to a formal interview with their internal security and general counsel. The second crack was Malcolm, or rather, Marcus. His parole officer in Florida had been notified. His parole was revoked. A bench warrant was issued. He was now a fugitive, and he was furious. The third crack was the money. Diana, realizing the TRO had frozen not just my accounts, but also any hope of getting new money from me, must have been desperate. I knew this because she received an email from Marcus, which Avery intercepted, as he was now part of the active case. It was short and brutal. "Diana, they found me. They know. I'm gone. You need to wire $50,000 for a real legal team. Not that you're worth it. You have 24 hours. $50,000. She might as well have asked for the moon. Diana's panic must have been absolute. She knew my accounts were frozen. She knew Malcolm was her only protection, the brains of the operation, and he was running. That's when she showed up. Not at the secure apartment. She had no idea where that was. She showed up at my old apartment, the one in the walk-up in Central Riverton. She must have sat in the lobby, buzzing my apartment number over and over, until another tenant let her in. She was waiting outside my door when I arrived, under the pretense of collecting my mail, though in truth, Avery and I had been waiting for this exact move. She was a wreck. Her hair was stringy, her eyes red and swollen. The designer knockoff purse she always carried was scuffed. The mask of the concerned mother was gone, replaced by the tragic victim performance I knew so well. "Zoe!" she cried, lunging for me. I didn't move, and she stopped just short of grabbing me. "Zoe, thank God. I've been so worried. I can't reach you. You have to stop this." "Stop what, Mom?" I asked. My voice was calm. I held the box of mail, my keys in my hand. "This, all of it," she wept, gesturing wildly. "The lawyers, the hospital, They're calling Tessa. They're accusing her of things. They're frightening her and Malcolm. He's in trouble, all because he was trying to help us, to help you. He was trying to help himself to my money, Mom, and so were you. No, she wailed, and the tears came, hot and practiced. You don't understand what it's like. I'm your mother. I've had nothing. My whole life I lost your father. I tried to build something and it failed. I'm so afraid. I'm afraid of losing you because I'm poor. There it was, the old familiar script, the one she had used my whole life. I'm a victim. The world is cruel. Pity me. Give me what I want. I had heard it after the boutique failed. I had heard it every time her rent was late. I had heard it every time she borrowed money she never intended to repay. I looked at her, not at the performance, but at the small, grasping woman underneath. The cold, clear silence of the mahogany boardroom filled my senses. I was no longer in the audience. You're not afraid of losing me. Mom, I said, my voice quiet, but carrying in the stillness of the hallway. You're afraid of losing my money. She stopped crying. The tears just shut off, as if by a tap. Her face, still wet, hardened. The victim vanished, replaced by a cold, reptilian fury. You are just like him, she hissed, her voice low and venomous. That cold, cruel old man. He poisoned you. You'd rather have his money than your own family. I'd rather have my own life, I replied. I unlocked my apartment door. You should go. Mom, you're not welcome here, and you are violating a restraining order. Her face went pale. She knew. She backed away, her hands trembling with rage, not sorrow. You'll regret this, Zoe. You'll be all alone, and you'll deserve it. She turned and fled down the stairs. I stepped into my old apartment, which already smelled like dust and a life I'd left behind. The final, pathetic piece of the puzzle arrived 2 days later, an email from Tessa. The subject line was just, I'm sorry. I opened it. It was a rambling, narcissistic, half apology, clearly written without Diana's supervision. Zoe, this has all gone too far. I know you're mad. I didn't mean for it to get like this. I was just trying to help Mom. She's so stressed, and you have so much. You never share. You always act like you're better than us just because you have that stupid job. I'm sorry you got sick, but it wasn't supposed to be that bad. We just wanted you to rest so we could get the paperwork signed and help you manage the trust. We were all supposed to be a family. I'm sorry. If you just call off the lawyers in the hospital, we can go back to how it was. I'm even attaching the plan we made, so you can see, it was always fair. My heart hammered. The plan. Attached to the email was not a letter, it was a file. ZE Assets Plan V3 byte XLSX. My hand was shaking as I downloaded it. I forwarded it directly to Avery, but I opened it myself. It was a spreadsheet. It was a business plan for the theft of my life. It listed every asset I owned, my 401k, my savings, my checking, my car, and then a huge, bolded line item, Parish Trust, Est 8 mic figures. Next to the list were 3 columns Diana, Tessa, and Malcolm. They had divided me up. Diana was to receive 50% of the trust, plus my car. Malcolm was to receive 20% of the trust as his management fee for facilitating the takeover. Tessa was to receive 30% of the trust, my brokerage account, and my apartment, which she had apparently intended to move into. I saw a tab at the bottom labeled Timeline. I clicked it. It was a calendar. It went back 6 months. March M, to confirm trust activation date. April D, to approach Z with practice POA. May, if Z refuses secure medical avenue. T, to confirm hospital contacts/protocols. June week of 30th. Z's birthday event. Execute medical plan. Secure POA. File with banks and trust admin. M, to begin transfer. They had a calendar reminder. For my 30th birthday, they had planned to drug me, to incapacitate me, to forge the documents, and to steal my entire future, all as a birthday present to themselves. I forwarded the whole thing to Avery. Her reply was instant. "It's over. Zoe, this is a signed confession to a conspiracy. This is the last nail." While the legal noose tightened, my professional life was accelerating in a way I never could have imagined. My takedown of Marcus Hale's billing fraud at Kestrel had not gone unnoticed. The memo I had forced Gary to act on had made it to the board. I was invited to speak at the quarterly all-hands meeting, not about operations, but about the very topic I had weaponized: data ethics and compliance. I stood on the small stage in the Kestrel auditorium, looking out at 200 of my colleagues. I didn't talk about my family. I didn't have to. I talked about integrity. "We build firewalls to protect our data," I said, my voice carrying over the microphone. "But we forget to build boundaries to protect our people. Fraud doesn't start with a hacker. It starts with a loophole. It starts with a long-term relationship that prevents us from asking hard questions. It starts with an employee who is pressured, or a manager who looks the other way." I looked at the front row. "And it starts with a signature. It starts with asking someone to sign something when they are vulnerable, when they are distracted, or when they are groggy from medication. A signature under duress is not consent. It is a violation. And building a culture of integrity means protecting every single person from that violation." The applause was immediate and sustained. The next day, I was called into the CEO's office. He offered me the newly created position of Vice President of Compliance. It was a massive promotion, a senior leadership role. I accepted. I told Gideon that night. He was at the secure apartment, reviewing the charter for the Blue Lantern Fund. He looked up from the papers, a rare, genuine warmth in his eyes. "A vice president," he said. "You stopped the bleeding, you cauterized the wound, you rebuilt your career, and you did it all yourself." He stood up. "You're strong enough now. Zoe, you don't need me to hide you. You don't need Avery to speak for you. You're ready to stand on your own." He picked up his phone. "It's time," he said. He made a call to his assistant. "Please arrange the dinner. Friday night, Parish Foundation Hall. Send formal invitations to Ms. Diana Cooper and Ms. Tessa Cooper. The event is a family legacy discussion." He hung up. "Avery has the final complaint. She will not file it. Not yet." "What is this, Gideon?" I asked. "Another test." "No," he said. "This is a conclusion. Avery calls it the night of the uncorking. It's one thing to defeat them in court. It's another to watch them realize, in public, that they have lost. You deserve to see that." It was a summons, a final, formal, public execution, and I would be the one holding the sword. The Parish Foundation Hall was not a sterile boardroom. It was a space designed for legacy. Warm light glowed from sconces, illuminating the dark, oiled wood of the walls and the portraits of people whose lives the foundation had changed. It was filled, perhaps 30 or 40 people. I recognized my extended family Aunt Carol, Uncle Mark sitting in a rigid, uncomfortable cluster. I saw the CEO of Kestrel Biologics and my old boss, Gary, looking profoundly nervous. I saw a small, grim-faced delegation from St. Haviland Medical Center, including their general counsel, and scattered throughout were the partners and board members of the Parish Foundation, the quiet, competent people I had met at Parish House. Diana and Tessa were already there, seated at a small table near the front. They looked out of place, like crows in a gallery. They must have thought this family legacy discussion was a mediation, a last-ditch effort by Gideon to strong-arm them into a quiet settlement. They had worn their Sunday best. They looked cornered. I sat at the head table, between Gideon and Avery. I wore the suit I had bought for my new VP position. I felt nothing, not fear, not anger, just a cold, final stillness. Gideon stood. He walked to the small lectern, a glass of sparkling water in his hand. The room fell silent. "Good evening," he began, his voice calm and resonant, filling the hall. "Thank you for coming. We call these legacy discussions because tonight we are here to define one." He looked at me, a brief, affirming glance. I'm not here to talk about money. I'm here to talk about integrity. And I'm here to tell a story about a girl who woke up in a hospital bed, surrounded by people she trusted, only to find that her trust was a weapon being used against her. A girl who was told she was weak, sick, and confused. He raised his glass. This is a toast to her, because she woke up, and she chose not to be silent. On cue, a massive screen, previously hidden behind a wood panel, descended from the ceiling. It lit up. It was not a slideshow. It was Avery's entire case, distilled into a crushing visual timeline. Avery stood, a remote in her hand. "The facts," she said, her voice clinical. At 2:03 an email was sent from Ms. Cooper's account to her bank, attaching a forged power of attorney. The screenshot of the email appeared. At 2:17 a.m., she clicked. That POA was uploaded to the St. Haviland Medical Center system, granting Diana Cooper medical control. The server log appeared. The login used was J. Riley RN. The IP address and device ID traced back to this. The next slide was a photo of Tessa's iPhone, the one she'd used for her temp job. Tessa made a small, strangled sound. At 2:50 a.m., Avery continued, relentless. A transfer for $9,800 was initiated from Ms. Cooper's account to an LLC. The bank request flashed on screen. Hart Advisory Services, a shell company registered to a Malcolm Hart. This was followed, Avery's voice dropped, by a 6-month internal chat log detailing the plan to chemically induce a medical crisis, falsify the hospital records, and seize control of Miss Cooper's assets, including the parish trust. The spreadsheet appeared, the one with my name and their names in columns, dividing my life like spoils of war. Z's birthday event. The room was deathly quiet. You could hear the hum of the projector. Aunt Carol had her hand over her mouth. My CEO was staring, his face like stone. "This," Diana suddenly shrieked, jumping to her feet. "This is an abomination, Father." She pointed a trembling finger at Gideon. "You are humiliating your daughter in front of everyone. This is a private family matter." Gideon didn't raise his voice. He didn't even look angry. He just looked at her. "I am not humiliating anyone, Diana," he said, his voice carrying over her sobs. "I am merely returning the truth to my granddaughter, a truth you tried to steal." You can't prove any of this," Tessa stammered, her face blotchy and red. "It's all lies. We were helping." "The evidence is comprehensive and conclusive," Avery stated, "and it has already had consequences." She nodded to the delegation from St. Haviland, the general counsel. A woman with iron-gray hair stood up, her voice shaking with controlled fury. "On behalf of St. Haviland Medical Center," she said, "I wish to offer our deepest, most profound apology to Ms. Zoe Cooper for the gross violation of her trust and her safety." She looked at me. "Your case exposed a critical flaw in our internal security, and for that, we are in your debt." She then turned, her gaze landing on Tessa. "As of yesterday, the employee who facilitated the fraudulent access, Janine Holt, has been terminated, and St. Haviland has referred all evidence of criminal conspiracy and HIPAA violations by Ms. Tessa Cooper to the district attorney's office." Tessa let out a small, terrified wail and sank in her chair, covering her face. "As for the civil matter," Avery said, taking the floor again. The screen behind her went blank. "Mr. Parrish has authorized me to offer a one-time final resolution. We have here," she held up a thick document, "a letter dismissing the civil complaint, no damages, no criminal referrals from us." Diana's head snapped up, a desperate, greedy hope in her eyes. "This is conditional," Avery said, her voice like ice. "It is contingent on both Ms. Diana Cooper and Ms. Tessa Cooper signing this." She held up a second document. "A binding, permanent agreement, one you will never again contact, approach, or attempt to manage any aspect of Ms. Zoe Cooper's life, personal or financial, forever. 2. You will issue a public, written apology to the extended family, admitting to the fabrication. 3. You will both enroll in and complete a 40-hour financial ethics course to be paid for by this foundation. It was a public surrender. You can't do this, a man's voice boomed from the back. Every head turned. It was Malcolm, Marcus Hale. He looked terrible, his suit rumpled, his face slick with sweat. He must have been hiding in the back, waiting, or perhaps Diana had convinced him to come as her legal mind. "This is slander defamation," he shouted, striding forward. "My name is on that screen. I had a contract with Mid-Valley. You got that contract severed. I'll sue you. I'll sue all of you." Avery Pike smiled. It was the most terrifying expression I had ever seen. "Sue us, Mr. Hale?" she asked, her voice pleasant. She clicked the remote. The screen lit up again. On the left was a high-resolution mugshot of Marcus Hale from his Florida conviction. On the right was his full criminal record: wire fraud, securities fraud, parole violation. "This Marcus Hale?" she asked. The room erupted in gasps. Malcolm stopped dead. "Or perhaps," Avery clicked again, "you mean the contract with Mid-Valley? The one that was paying you $800,000 a year? The one that Kestrel Biologics," she nodded to my CEO, "severed last week after Ms. Cooper's internal audit?" Malcolm's face collapsed. He had just learned, in a public hall, that his entire clean money pipeline was gone, and that I was the one who had cut it. He knew it was over. The fight drained out of him, leaving a hollow, terrified shell. Diana was looking around the room, her eyes wide with panic, searching for a single friendly face. She found none. Aunt Carol looked at her with pure disgust. Uncle Mark wouldn't even meet her gaze. Tessa was just sobbing into her hands, muttering, "You told me it would work. Mom, you told me it would work." Avery let the silence hang, heavy and suffocating. Then, Gideon turned to me. His voice was low, for my ears only, but in the silence, it seemed to echo. "The offer is on the table, Zoe," he said. "The civil suit is ready. We can file it tomorrow. We can send them both to court. We can let the DA handle Tessa, or you can let them sign that paper and end this. They will be humiliated, they will be broke, and they will be bound, but they will not be in jail." He looked at me, his blue eyes searching mine. "If you want, we stop here, or—" He left the word hanging, the choice. He was giving it all to me, the power, the end. I looked at Diana, my mother, her face a ruin of her own making. I looked at Tessa, my sister, a girl so warped by envy she had helped drug me. I could destroy them. I could send them to prison. I could take every last thing from them. I picked up my glass of water. My hand was perfectly steady. I took a slow, deep breath. I knew what I had to do. This was my ending. I stood up, I walked past Gideon, past Avery, and stepped onto the small stage. The hum of the microphone filled the silence. I looked directly at my mother, at my sister. "I'm not going to pursue criminal charges," I said. My voice was clear, amplified, and did not tremble. I saw the sickening, desperate flare of hope in Diana's eyes. She thought she had won. "Jail is an ending," I continued, "but it's not the one I want. If you go to prison, you become my responsibility, my burden, my victims. I am done being responsible for you. I'm not choosing revenge. I'm choosing freedom." I turned to Avery. The document. She stepped forward, placing the thick, binding agreement on the lectern. A bright, focused camera light, one I hadn't noticed before, clicked on, illuminating the page. This was not just a signature. It was a recorded confession. I picked up the pen. "I, Zoe Cooper, being of sound mind, do hereby permanently and irrevocably refuse any and all financial, medical, or legal authorization, implied or explicit, now and in the future, for Diana Cooper and Tessa Cooper." I signed my name. The stroke of the pen was loud in the silent room. "It's done." Gideon rose and stood beside me. Then, as of this moment, the test is complete. He addressed the room. The Parish Legacy Trust, established for my granddaughter, was held contingent upon her demonstrating absolute financial independence from her mother, by her actions, and by this final declaration. She has more than satisfied that clause. I am instructing the administrators, effective at midnight tonight, to dissolve the contingency and transfer full, direct, and sole control of the parish trust to its beneficiary, Zoe Cooper. A murmur went through the room. Gideon wasn't finished. This transfer, he continued, comes with a new community responsibility clause, which she has already designed. He nodded to the screen. The mugshots and spreadsheets vanished, replaced by a simple, elegant logo of a blue light. The Parish Foundation is proud to announce a 10-year contract with an initial funding of $5 million for a new initiative, the Blue Lantern Fund. It will finance the education of high-aptitude, ethical nursing candidates. Its founder and its sole director will be Ms. Zoe Cooper. My CEO was applauding. The delegation from St. Haviland looked on, stunned, seeing not a victim, but a solution. Avery stepped forward one last time, holding a final, slim folder. One last piece of administration. She looked at Diana, whose face was pale with confusion. The property at 455 Hawthorne Drive, Ms. Cooper's childhood home, was recently found to be carrying 3 separate mortgages, all taken out by Ms. Diana Cooper, and was facing imminent foreclosure. Diana let out a small, wounded animal sound. That was her last secret, her last asset. As of this afternoon, Avery continued, her voice sharp, the Parish Foundation has purchased the property. The debts are cleared. Diana's face flooded with a pathetic, desperate relief. She started to sob. "Oh, Zoe, thank you. I knew you." Avery cut her off. "The Foundation is not returning the home to you. Ms. Cooper, it is being converted. It will become the Zoe Cooper Nursing Training Center, the official headquarters for the Blue Lantern Fund. You have 30 days to remove your personal belongings." That was the true execution. Not jail, not poverty, replacement. My success would be built, literally, on the foundation of her failure. Diana collapsed. She stumbled forward, grabbing my arm, her nails digging into my jacket. The performance was gone. There was nothing left but raw, grasping need. "Zoe, please, I'm your mother. I have nothing. I need you. I need my baby." I looked at her hand. I looked at her face. The microphone was still on. "No, Mom," I said, my voice quiet but caring. "You don't need me. You need to learn how to stop taking from me." I gently, deliberately, unhooked her fingers from my arm. I stepped back. Tessa, seeing her mother fail, seeing the DA referral still hanging over her, scrambled forward. "Zoe, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll do anything. I'll sign the paper, I'll give it back, I'm sorry." "Give what back, Tessa?" I asked. I don't know," she cried. "You can start," I said, my voice as cold as the hospital floor, "by returning every single password you ever stole, my email, my bank, my utilities, my Netflix, all of it. I want a list by morning, or I will hand-deliver my statement to the district attorney. Then you will sign the agreement." She nodded frantically, tears and mucus streaming down her face. "Yes, okay, yes, I'll do it. The spell was broken. The room was moving. The St. Haviland General Counsel approached me, her hand extended. "Ms. Cooper, Zoe, that was remarkable. Your presentation at Kestrel on data ethics was forwarded to us. We were wondering, given your unique perspective, if you would consider joining our new Patient Ethics Committee as an independent chair. The hospital that had enabled my kidnapping was now asking me to police it." I shook her hand. "I accept." People were leaving. Diana and Tessa were being escorted by Avery to a side room to sign the agreement, their faces hollow, Marcus Hale was long gone. The show was over. Gideon walked over. He didn't hug me. He just placed his hand on my shoulder. It was heavy. It was proud. "You're a vice president," he said. "You're the director of a fund. You're the chair of an ethics committee. And you are, finally, in control." He looked at me. The ice in his blue eyes melted, replaced by a deep, profound respect. "Go on with your life, Zoe Cooper. You've earned it." He turned and walked away. I didn't stay. I didn't talk to my aunts, my boss, or the partners. I walked straight out of the hall, away from the hushed whispers and polite applause, and pushed open the heavy doors to the foundation's terrace. The night air was cold. It hit my face, sharp and clean. The sound of the city traffic from 40 floors below was a distant, steady hum. I was above it all. I was safe. I leaned against the cold stone balustrade. The door clicked shut behind me, sealing off the room. The silence was complete. I pulled out my new phone. A single message had arrived. Time to the minute. The clock on the screen read 12:01 a.m. It was an email from the trust administrators. Subject: Parish Legacy Trust. Status update. Dear Ms. Cooper, we are pleased to confirm that all contingency clauses on your trust have been satisfied and removed. Full administrative control has been successfully transferred to you as of midnight. Welcome. I read it twice. I opened my new banking app. The numbers on the screen were staggering, but they weren't the victory. They were just the result. I went into my phone's settings. I found the contacts for Mom and Tessa. I didn't delete them. I went, one by one, through the options. Block phone number, block email, block all social media. I built the final firewall. I slipped the phone into my pocket. I looked out at the lights of Riverton. I took a deep, cold breath of the night air. I smiled, and I closed that old, broken door, forever. Thanks so much for listening to my story. I would love to know where you are listening from. Drop a comment below. Let's chat and share our thoughts. Please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and if you can, support us by hitting that hype button so this story can be heard by even more people.